Okay. Bava Kamma. Hey, Gimel Hey. If one came with his jug and another came with his beam, and this one's jug broke on that one's beam, he is exempt, since this one has the right to walk and that one has the right to walk. If the owner of the beam was first and the owner of the jug second, and the jug broke in the beam, on the beam, the owner of the beam is exempt. But if the owner of the beam stopped, he's liable. If, however, he said to the owner of the jug, stop, he's exempt. If the owner of the jug was first and the owner of the beam second, and the jug broke on the beam, he's liable. But if the owner of the jug stopped, he's exempt. If, however, he said to the owner of the beam, stop, he's liable. And the same applies if one comes with his candle and this one with his flax. If two were going in a public domain, one was running and one was walking, or both were running, and they injured one another, both are exempt. If one chops wood in a private domain and damages in a public domain, or if in a public domain and damages in a private domain, or in a private domain and damages in another private domain, he is liable.
Okay. Right, so we've learned the principle so far that Adam Muad Leolam. Now, what happens if you have a combination of damages between a tam and a muad? Okay, so Mishna starts with Shnei Shvarim Tamim Shechavlu Ze B'Ze. So you have two tam oxen who get into a fight. Mishalim b'mosar chatzia nezik. So the one damages the other one 100 shekels, and the other one damages 40 shekels worth. So the difference is 60 that got 60 in damages, and you halve that. Okay, nice and easy. Yeah, so the one who caused more damage pays 30 to the other one. Shnei muadim. What happens if they're both muad and they get into a fight with each other? Again, mishalnim b'mosar nezik shalem. So you look at the difference between the two, and now you pay the full damages. So then the one who had damaged more now would pay 60 in this case. Echad tam ve'echad muad. Now things get a little more complicated if one ox is tam and the other one is muad. Okay, muad b'tam. Okay, so if the muad caused more damage than the tam, so let's say the muad caused 100 shekels damage and the tam caused 40. So what do? Mishalim b'mosar nezik shalem. So whatever's left over, he must pay full damages. Now, this is an interesting thing. Like, how do you actually calculate that? Because there's actually a machlokes of the Rishonim. The Rosh explains that you first subtract the damages. You subtract 40 from 100, and you got 60. Okay, and that's what the mazik must pay. What the owner of the muad must pay. The Rambam says no. You look at the damages that each one is chayav individually. You basically break it down into two separate events. You look at the thing as two separate sets of damages. That the tam that caused 40 damage only has to pay 20, and the muad that caused 100 has to pay 100. Therefore, the difference is 80, and that's where the Rambam rules. So the Rambam looks at it as two separate incidents involving damages, that where the tam pays 100, where the tam pays 50% and the muad pays 100%. Whereas the Rosh looks at it as a single incident, where you look at what's the net damage between the two, and then if it's for a muad, he pays 100% of that, and if it's tam, he pays half of that. So in this case, he's makil on the owner of the muad, because the Rosh would have, in our case, would have the owner of the muad paying 60 shekels, where the Rambam would have him paying 80 shekels. Okay. Because you see the difference with you viewing it as one incident, where you look at what's the net loss to one side, who caused more damage to the other, and then you pay that, or do you look at them as separate things, where the tam caused this much and you halve that, and then the muad caused this much and you don't halve it. Okay. So, and if it was the other direction, tam b'muad mishalem b'mosar chatzin nezik. Let's say the tam caused more damage than the muad, so the muad caused the 40 and the tam caused the 100. So now, according to Rambam, the muad, the tam is going to say, the owner of the tam will say, well, I only owe you 50, and the owner of the muad can only claim 40. Yeah, well, even the owner of the tam will claim 40. So the owner of the tam only has to pay in 10, because it's 50 minus 40. Whereas the Rosh will say, no, look at it as a net thing. It's 100 minus 40. That's 60. So 60 divided by 2, and now you have to pay 30. So now the Rosh is being machmir on the owner of the tam.
Okay.
Okay. So either way, the Rosh always winds up giving the advantage to the owner of the muad, where the Rambam winds up giving the advantage to the owner of the tam. Okay. And the same thing happens if you have two men get into a fight. Okay, now they're looking at the damages that they have to assess. Whoever damaged the other one more, you look at what the difference is, and he has to pay nezek shalem, because at Adam muad lo'olam, there's no such thing as chatzi nezek by a person. Okay. Adam muad Adam. Also, if a man got into a tangle with an animal that was muad, shalem b'moser nezek shalem. Then whoever caused more damage has to pay the difference. Adam betam Adam. However, if a man got into a tangle with a tam animal, Adam betam mishalem b'moser nezek shalem. Tam be'adam mishalem b'moser chatzi nezek. So the man just takes the place of the muad, because Adam muad olam. So it's exactly the same cheshbon as we had earlier in the Mishnah. Rabbi Akiva omer im af tam shechaval be'adam mishalem b'moser nezek shalem. So Rabbi Akiva says no. That if a tam injured a person, we don't say that it's not muad. We still say that he pays nezek shalem. That the tam only pays chatzi nezek if it injures another animal. If it injures the person, he has to pay full damages. Okay. He learns it out from the pasuk. Kamishpat hazeh yaselo. That's for a sharanaga. Okay, and that's for a sharanaga. If it's tam, even if it's a tam, he's got this limud. But the halacha follows the Tana Kamma that a tam, even if it injures a person, still only pays chatzi nezek. Okay. Shor shavim mane shenagach shor shavim masayim. So if you have an ox that's worth 100 and it injures an ox that's worth 200. Okay, we're talking about a tam.
Right.
Okay. But ein hanavela yafikum, and now the carcass is worthless. Let's say whatever you pushed it off a cliff, and it's
Right.
gone. So there's no value to the carcass. So the total damage is 200, but because it's a tam, he only has to pay 100. And the shore itself, the injuring the tam is worth 100. Okay, so the owner only has to pay up to the value of the animal. He can just say, okay, take the animal. No teles ashor. So the nizak can take the whole animal, and that's his payment for the debt. Okay. Shor shavim masayim shein nagach shor shavim masayim. And what happens if the ox is worth 200 and it damages another ox, or kills another ox that's also worth 200? Ve'ein navela yafeh klum. So Amar Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Meir says, Al zeh ne'emar u'machros hashor achai v'chatzos kaspo. So this is what we say. This is a fulfillment of the pasuk that they should sell the living ox and split the money. Right. So the living ox is worth 200. 100 goes to the nizak and 100 goes to the mazik because he only has to pay chatzi nezek. Amar lo Rabbi Yehuda. Yeah, you're right, Taka, but you've kept that part of the pasuk, but there's another part of the pasuk. What about a case where they're going to split the value of the carcass? Okay, so what's the case? Okay, so each ox is worth 200, but you can, but they've got a carcass left over, and it's worth 50 because you can sell it to the dog food makers. Okay, and they can, and they'll pay you 50 shekels for the carcass. Okay. So now what you do is you basically split the damages. So if the mace is worth 50, then each of them is worth 20. So each of them effectively is getting 25. Okay,
Mhm.
and what about the living one is worth 100? Okay, so is worth 200. So each one of them gets 100. Okay,
So these end up with
how does that-
125.
right. So basically, each one of them is coming out with 125. And now, how does this work in if we think about it a little more rationally, if we think about the proper math of it, is that the mace was the animal before was worth 200, it's now worth 50. So really the damage is 150. Okay, so the damage
Right.
what he lost is 150, and Chatzi Nezik is 75. So as the mazik has to sell his ox and give the owners 75, which is the damage, and add to that the value of the carcass.
Oh.
That's another 50, which is 125. So that's how it works out. There is a more fundamental machlokes. The commentary explains that there's more of a fundamental machlokes. They're not just sort of quibbling about how to apply the pasuk. They're also arguing about what happens if the value of the carcass changes between when the death occurs and when they actually sell it.
How could it change?
Market prices change. Market price for nevela meat goes up.
Okay. All right.
Suddenly there's more dogs, or there's a the dog food factory burned down, and suddenly a carcass is worth a little bit more. So this is what? So Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir are only the disagreement is only about the shvach nevela, about the appreciation of the value of the nevela, since at the time that it died it was worthless, and now it's become more valuable. According to Rabbi Meir, the shvach nevela is entirely belongs to the nizak. So if it was worth nothing at the time that the animal died, and then suddenly they found a buyer who could take it, at the time that they go to din, he says that's my 50. I gain it entirely, which means that they still have to sell the animal and give him 100. So right. then he comes off better. Whereas so that's according to Rabbi Meir, but Rabbi Yehuda says no. You've got to factor in the shvach. You take the damages at the time of the court proceedings and say, okay, what is the animal worth now that we're awarding you the damages? And the Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. So we got 3, and I have to run because it's 9.
Okay. Let's just finish the last new Mishnah. Yesh chayev al maaseh shoro pater al maaseh atzmo. So there are cases where a person can be chayev for what his ox does, and pater if he had done it. Pater al maaseh shoro v'chayev al maaseh atzmo. But he can be pater if his shor does it, and chayev if he did it himself. So here are the cases where his shor would be pater. Shor should be yesh. So let's say an ox came and stepped on a guy's pants and pulled his pants down, and now he's embarrassed. Okay, see, pater, you don't pay for your ox embarrassing a person. But if the person himself did it, that's that then he's chayiv. Okay, if his ox attacked a slave and knocked out his eye or his tooth, which normally is grounds for setting a slave free automatically, he's pater. He has to set his slave free. So here, if his ox did it, it's pater. But if he did, he's chayiv. On the other hand, if his ox injures his father or his mother, then he has to pay damages. Okay. Because why? If a person strikes his father or mother, he's chayiv misa. So when a person's chayiv misa, then we don't have niskei mamon. Similarly, if his ox set fire to a haystack on Shabbos, he has to pay damages. Because a person who violates Shabbos is chayiv misa, and therefore we don't adjudicate monetary damages for that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, great. I'm sorry. We'll just pick up
tomorrow. You got to get to davening.
Yeah, and I had that doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I will call you and see if I'm